The portal is open, and the Tigers bringing a former Auburn player home makes a ton of sense.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's a Recruiting Thursday, a Portal Thursday. We're joined by Brian Smith, host of The Portal. That's Locked On's daily recruiting, transfer portal, NIL show. And goodness gracious, what a busy month it's about to be for you, Brian. But we'll start things off with the Auburn flavor. We'll talk about Auburn's defensive back exodus, if you want to call it that. I guess it technically feels like that, but I don't think the impact's there. We'll discuss that, as well as Bradyn Joyner and what that means for the offensive line, perhaps in this portal window. But overall, like the needs, and Hugh Freeze talked about this after A-Day. I mean, he mentioned interior D-line, he mentioned pass rusher, he mentioned linebacker, and a name that I have seen floating around early, you've seen it too, former Auburn Tiger, Jay Hardy, defensive tackle. It's what Auburn needs. He went off to Liberty, and he has entered the portal. And there's some talk about potentially bringing him back. Your thoughts?
I think that it makes sense from the perspective. He knows the place. He's not going to be unfamiliar with anything. In 23, we got banged up last year, but in 2023, he was very productive, had a few sacks, had 5 tackles for loss.
Sure.
And he's 300 pounds, Zach. At the end of the day, there aren't very many human beings that large that can move. It's just supply and demand, brother. It's supply and demand.
Yeah, and as far as what's needed, on this roster, if Jay Hardy is your third guy that would slot into that nose spot, like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, if he ends up beating somebody out, good for him. But right now, he's probably number 5 or number 6 overall in the interior D-line.
Interior as a whole, sure, right.
Assuming he would join the Auburn Tigers again. They're going to kick the tires, from what I've heard. But this is still NIL negotiation. It's still who else is interested. And let me be very clear. D-tackle is one of the 3 spots that, like, there just aren't hardly any. O-tackle, D-tackle, and quarterback. Those 3 spots.
Yeah.
You either overpay or you sit at home without the talent you need.
Right.
There's no way around it. So how much is Auburn willing to put into the – I don't know. You tell me, because I honestly don't know. Do you think they're – because I thought their D tackles were good the other day at A-Day in general.
I think it's a depth question. I don't think it's a starters question. I think it's you were really impressed with Bobby Jamison Travis. And I thought he looked good too. Yeah. It's like, what happens if Malik Blockton gets hurt? What happens if Bobby gets hurt? And it's like, I haven't heard anything about Dallas Walker, the transfer from Western Kentucky. And so, like, do you feel confident with him being your starter for a few games if, heaven forbid, something happened to Bobby? Like, I can't imagine they're super fired up about that scenario. But does bringing a guy like Jay Hardy in change how you feel if your main guy goes down? Like, I don't think so, but you still need bodies.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck either way you go. This is 6 one way, half dozen the other, because if you knew for a fact your 2 starters were going to play all 12, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But it's football, and the number one predictor of wins and losses, fair or not, are injuries. There's no way around it. And it's just true. And if you lose an interior D lineman that's even your third guy, you can ask any D line coach, college or pro, it screws you, because then you need to either A, play your starter more reps than you want, so he's tired for the games coming up, or B, you're playing somebody you're probably not wanting to play in the lineup. There is no good answer. So either you overpay for somebody in the portal to come be a backup, or you run the risk and you go the Vegas route and roll the dice. It's up to you as a program.
Yeah. So Jay Hardy, a name that we've seen. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Let's shift to the pass rusher / edge position. Buffalo edge, former Buffalo edge, Kobe Stewart entering the portal, 6'3", 240, had 12 tackles for loss, led the MAC in sacks with 9.5 last year. We've seen this coaching staff go into the portal and get edge guys that had multiple years left of eligibility and develop them. They're solid their first year, then they take that step forward. We saw it with J-Mac. That's what we're expecting to see with Kieran. The difference here is I don't believe Kobe has multiple years of eligibility. You and I were doing the math on that. It looks like he's played in 4 years, but one of those was a redshirt year where he played just 3 games, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so it'd be a different situation, but I mean, he dominated the MAC. I mean, those are great numbers. And if you talk about, being your third or fourth pass rusher, it's like, yeah, I would take that in a heartbeat. Is that the route they want to go? I'm not sure.
Well, this might be a conjunction with the D tackle spot. Like if you have X amount of dollars you're designating, which spot would you rather have? Which player would you rather have? This is calculus. This is not pre-algebra. There are a lot of thought processes before you make a phone call.
Well, and you've got to balance, because I did a show on this earlier in the week, Brian. I think you need a defensive tackle for this year. I think you need an edge rusher for depth this year and to compete for a spot next year, right? So like I think you're kind of balancing it in a different way. You're balancing all of this in multiple ways.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but there aren't many guys. Like last year, Kieran was just a steal. Like not that many people realized, because he was a hooper in high school until the very end. The Auburn staff knew about him. They got pretty fortunate to have a relationship, and then went and got him, and it was a 2-year deal. That's going to be hard to do, because I think they'll have more competition for guys like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but the price will probably go up for any pass rusher, because you saw what Ohio State did, what Penn State did, and different guys that just dominated games. If you have an elite pass rusher, it just changes the game. So even a guy that's rotational, and I don't know if Kobe would compete for starter reps at all, because it's hard to,
I don't know.
Coming for the MAC, it's either boom or bust. Some of those kids kill it, but like the tight end that everybody was all raving about in the portal was at Ball State. He goes to Wisconsin. He lasted about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he had like 90 catches last year, something crazy. Right. And he lasted about 2 weeks at Wisconsin. You just don't know. But this kid has physical gifts. I mean, he had 29 pressures according to PFF last year. Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
Right.
So I would assume he's going to get a pretty hefty offer from somebody. Like Ohio State needs D linemen. Every D lineman we talk about today, I guarantee Ohio State is called. They're at a spot. So that'll drive up the price too. That doesn't help the cause. They got a lot of NIL too.
Yeah. And then I think there's talented guys in the portal at edge, like Bo Atkinson from North Carolina. Like he's got multiple years left of eligibility. Like would that make sense? I just, the edge room, like I understand you can't turn away pass rushers. Like what Hugh Freeze said is 100% correct. Like you can't have too many pass rushers. You and I talked about that from a recruiting angle of like Auburn's recruiting like 10 edge guys. But this year, I just don't know what the sales pitch is. Unless whoever you're planning to bring in, you think it's better than Chris Murray, which maybe they are. But with Kieran and then Chris Murray, you got Keldrick and Amaris on the other side. But I also think this coaching staff wants to put Jared Smith on the field. And you have Joe Phillips and Jamonta Waller. It's just, I don't know where the reps are, Brian.
Well, are you going to relegate the backup spot? Let's use Waller as an example. I saw him in high school. He was nasty, but he's a redshirt freshman. Do you think he's ready for games 7 through 12? Like the back half of the schedule is where it just gets gross for any SEC team. There are no weeks off.
Yeah.
When you're playing an SEC school, because the guy in front of him is 310 pounds minimum.
Right.
So do you want an experienced guy, even if it's a G5 guy that comes in that gets you 15 reps a game to help lower at least the reps that somebody like Waller's got to play? Or do you go all in and try to get a guy that can somewhat compete for starter reps?
Yeah, I just wonder how many of those guys are going to be in this portal window, and also how much they're going to cost, So
like the thing that even somebody like me, I've got contacts all over the place, but the money part, we don't get to hear a lot about usually. And that's fascinating, especially with like the backup guy. Is it $50K if you know you're getting 10 reps a game? I have no idea. And
for an edge rusher, my guess is it would be a little bit more than that.
I think so too. It's probably $100K to $150K.
Because there's another school that's going to pay them starting money.
Yeah, like if you're a team that's, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but like Mississippi State was terrible last year. They probably have to do a little more to get somebody if they want to win, and they're allegedly trying to compete. They might outbid some other SEC schools. because they have they got playing time, and B, they know they're not top tier in terms of perception.
Yeah.
So that is a complicated matter.
All right, let's pivot to the offensive line. Bradyn, Joyner, entering the portal. What does that mean for Auburn as far as the roster goes, as well as how do they position themselves this portal window? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, you name it. Upwork has got it. Visit Upwork.com right now. You can post your job for free. That is Upwork, Upwork.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Brian Smith, host of The Portal. Be sure to tune in to his show as much as possible during this portal window. He's going to be all over it. All right, so Bradyn Joyner enters the portal. And when I first caught wind of this, it was a few days ago, my gut reaction was I did not like it. I did not like this move for Auburn because it sounded like a situation where I think Bradyn wanted to be here, but it just didn't make sense with the future of the program. And so, I think money was a factor. I think, the desire to feel like you were part of the future was a factor based on the conversations that I had, which I get it. I totally get it. And then, I start asking around about it, and I assumed he'd be a larger part for the future of the offensive line. And I was asking the question of who's the back? So is Cale Ellis the backup center who's not even here yet? But it sounds like they're okay with Dylan Cinda being the backup center. And it sounds like he kind of won that over the course of the spring. And so I don't mind it as much. I like Bradyn Joyner. I like him as a locker room guy. I think he outperformed what we thought he would be, especially this early in his collegiate career. Is it a deal breaker? No, it's not. But are you going to be able to bring in somebody who has that same level of impact this window for what you were paying Joyner? I don't think so, but they may not care. They may want to swing for the fences and get an elite guy that can help them win immediately.
Yeah, this is very complex. It's never good to lose the locker room guy, but I think this was probably, I don't know the pure numbers, but I don't think this is anything against Auburn. He just had better opportunities elsewhere, A, probably to play, and B, make more money. It is what it is. So do you find a guy that's similar to replace him for similar money to what he was making? That's where they pay people in the back office to go figure that out. That's very complex. But it sucks for Auburn because it's the same thing with D-tackle. If your starter goes down, you at least had somebody do the system, you do the coaches. Yeah. Now you're probably going out to the portal to get somebody that's backup that's starting anew. That's rough.
Yeah, it's tough. It's so tough to have these conversations because it's like we don't know what the financial commitment is all the time. And if we do, I don't really feel comfortable putting that number out there. So to me, it's like it's so tricky to have these conversations because it's all about value, right? Are there guys that are going to be better than Bradyn Joyner in the portal this window? Yes, there already are. But is Auburn in the market for that? They've got a ton of offensive linemen. And there are some Auburn fans that think that Auburn may get another offensive lineman. And there's some good ones out there. There's some good ones out there.
Joe Cotton from South Dakota is the guy that's hot.
Okay. I've seen his name.
6'7", 310. He's got a gazillion starts. And he's a kid that even they played last year against Wisconsin. His grades weren't awesome, but he's playing at P4 school, and he did pretty well against them, according to Pro Football Focus. So, and he graded out in pass protection at 77.3, in run blocking 82.8. Now I know that he wasn't playing P4 the whole time. He's playing mostly FCS and stuff, but he's still an experienced guy that's got several years under his belt, and he's 6'7", 310 pounds.
Right.
So he's going to get paid somewhere. He's going to make $1 million or more for somebody next year.
Yeah. Blake Steen, another one, an experienced, P4 guy from Virginia.
That
6'5", 331.
He could blow up.
he's gonna make some money. Somebody's gonna pay him a lot as well, for sure. Like, so, but like, is Auburn in the market for that tier of offensive linemen? Me personally, I don't get it, but I've seen other people make the case of like, they're all in, they want to dress up the O-line even more. And then with Joyner leaving, like a spot opens up. So perhaps I just got the impression, like the way Freeze was talking to the media after A-Day, like he kept being asked about the offense. And it really just kind of felt like, we're good. We're good there. Like, I feel good about the offensive roster, but I also don't know like what the sales pitch is. So if you're going to get one of these guys that's a surefire, like you're paying them to be a starter. Well, we're assuming Xavier Chaplin is being handsomely paid. He was a top guy in the portal at the more busy part of the portal in December. He was a top tackle from Virginia Tech. And then, I mean, I guess there are some questions about right tackle. Is it a Xavier Miller, which I'm high on? I'm high on Too Tall. Is it Mason Murphy, the number 2 tackle in the portal in December that you got from USC? Tyler Johnson, who sounds like he had, some good stretches in spring that people like what they saw there. So I'm all for having depth. And like you and I have joked, like you can't have too many offensive tackles, but in this situation, from a money standpoint, I just think the money might be more efficient used on other parts of the roster.
The only way I could see you going out and getting somebody that is one of these upper echelon, the kid from Virginia, the kid from South Dakota, whatever,
sure,
is if somebody else leaves. It doesn't have to be a tackle, but somebody else that you were paying on your roster leaves, and it opens up X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. I think it's more likely Auburn gets a guy they recruited out of high school, missed on, and he's played 1 or 2 years at and fill in the blank. And then he comes. By the way, just a quick note for those who don't know this, SEC rule, you are not allowed to transfer in the spring from SEC school to another SEC school. So you're not getting a Georgia kid, a Bama kid, a Mississippi kid, nothing like that. So just
good
a
note.
quick reference. But I think they're probably going to do this based, like I always say when I talk recruiting with you, everything is relationships.
Sure.
The O-line coach probably has somebody that has reached, I would bet money. Somebody has called Auburn, hey, if you are interested, I might be in the portal. Guarantee you that has happened. That's how this works.
Mm-hmm. Because the process is sped up. I mean, you recruit some of these guys for 3 or 4 years, if not longer.
Well, look at Jaden Ott, the kid that played for Cal last year at running back. Auburn shut him down, but he's a really talented player that's banged up. He gets in the portal before it opens. He signed with Oklahoma before the portal opened.
Yeah.
And if that's, obviously it's tampering and everything else, but NCAA's toothless. These kids usually know where they're going if they're upper echelon players.
Yeah. And somebody told me it's because he's a grad transfer. He was able to do that, but I thought they changed that rule. But
I don't know. If he's a grad kid, I don't have any problem with it. But like, by the way, there was a post that Cal lost not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 running backs to the portal. Something's really going wrong there.
Yeah, they hired Brian Harsin to be their OC.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to make that statement. I don't like saying his name around here. I want to get punched. But
I think if it's like with a negative connotation, I think it's fine. I don't think anybody's going to push back on that. It's like, oh, you don't want to play for Brian Harsin. Okay. All right. Yeah. The odd thing is odd because if I'm Oklahoma, I'm just like, wait 24 hours. But clearly it must be fine. I didn't fully understand that ruling, but doesn't matter. Like you said, even if it was early, the NCAA is not going to do anything about it. Overall thoughts on the defensive back room. Auburn has lost a lot in the DB room. I've made the case, Brian, that it's a good thing. I want to hear your thoughts on that in just a second right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Right now, you can bet $5, just $5. And if your first $5 bet wins, you get $250 in bonus bets. FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, or of course, making a parlay of several different games happening that evening. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Brian Smith, host of The Portal. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Make The Portal your listen immediately after you're done here. Brian, we've seen Auburn lose a few depth pieces in the defensive back room. JC Hart, CJ Johnson. I'm blanking on the third one. Terence Love. And there might be more. We'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if there was another one. No, none starters. And a lot of, I don't think any of those guys were really even in the two deep. Maybe T Love, maybe at one of the safety spots, but I don't think he would have played a ton. I think these would have been special teams contributors.
Well, this is an awkward scenario because I thought Hart had a chance to be a pretty good player, and he's a long athletic corner. I never like losing those guys. Did they try to pitch him on playing some safety or do something else? I don't know, but he's a pretty solid player.
Well, they moved him around too. They put him at receiver some, and they moved him back to DB. And it's I don't think they really knew how to use him.
He's a really good athlete. That part I do know. But this is a good sign. I know this is going to seem weird to some different people at Auburn, but there are a bunch of schools, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State lost a couple of pretty talented players today. When you get to that point where a second or third year player who has skill isn't a starter, doesn't matter.
Right.
That it just is what it is. It is part of doing business, as the old saying goes. There's nothing that Hugh Freeze and his staff can do about it. I know everybody typically wants the kid to love the school that's not how this works either. I know everybody gets really angry with that. Kids pick the money and their future over the school. That's the other part. That's not changing.
So that's one thing. And I've already seen this. The portal's been open, one day as we record this, Wednesday afternoon. But something that I roll my eyes at, because people are like, oh, well, all these kids, they're just chasing the money. Well, those are the ones who have stories written about them. But there's a lot of guys that wait their turn. There's a lot of guys on this roster that have waited their turn. But we don't talk about that. What Brandon Frazier has done. I mean, I have mentioned him several years ago. Every time the portal opened, I'm like, it makes sense for Frazier to leave. And he just stuck around. And then by the end of it, he's here. I mean, we've seen it with basketball too, with Dylan Cardwell. I mean, there's so many guys that do stick around and do wait their turn and do just say, I enjoy being a student athlete at Auburn, but we choose to not look at them. And the folks that say, oh, well, it's not about that anymore. It is. There's plenty on every roster. You just that's not where the attention is right now.
Fans look at the logo, not the person. And they get as far as articles that do well, it's based on negativity. Fans being mad that a player left their school. It's just the way it is. Emotion drives the traffic. And Nico, I know him, just to use him as an example, great kid. The people around him, I'm not going to go into any.
What do you think about his dad?
That's where I was kind of leading.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Nico, I would go out to dinner with tonight and have a great time. He'll make a good roster. He'd be a good guy in the locker room. But you got to bring the people with it. That's a tight-knit family. Yeah. And that's part of this too. Sometimes there are backroom discussions between somebody like Freeze and family members. It doesn't go well and the kid leaves. That's part of the game.
Right. Defensive back room, even with all these guys gone, I still think it's the best room on the team. I think they're incredible. I think at both corner and safety, there's so much in this room from a talent standpoint, from an experience standpoint, and from an upside standpoint. I just think it's a tremendous room, even with losing these guys.
I think they have a lot of talent. I would like one more guy that is a proven, no doubt, first or second rounder. That's the only thing.
Well, sure. Of course you would. Who wouldn't want another first or second round pick in a room?
But that's if you look at the teams that made the Final Four last year.
Yeah.
They all had first and second round picks, multiple. Auburn's on that cusp. They're a second tier DB school, meaning they're a top 10 DB room in terms of talent. But to get into that top 5, to take games over, you got to have a corner that is flat out the best guy on the field pretty much. Well, and you need a safety that's an animal too.
I think they do have first or second round picks. They're just not going to get drafted in next year's draft.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I think Jay Crawford is a first or a second round pick.
He's only a sophomore, so Jay's one. Where do you think Lee goes? Do you think he'll turn pro after this year? Like he had moments last year, but he got smoked a few times last year too. Like he takes some chances.
Yeah. And I've heard mixed reviews on his spring too. I want to see what he does, like not against, like, I want to see him not have to cover a receiver that's like a foot taller than him. But you're going to have to do that in the league too. So, I mean, we'll see. I think Kane's awesome. I think he's really, really good. I mean, I think Lee and Crawford are fantastic, but if I had to guess, I would say Kane Lee will be good enough to go pro after this year. Yeah.
That's I think he'll be a 2nd to 4th round pick. I don't think he's a 1st round guy, but he's always been super motivated. I've known him since he was a sophomore in high school, super motivated, and he really loves football. I think he is too. My question is there a safety that by the end of this season that is a flat out big time NFL player? If that checkbox comes up, yes, it changes Auburn's win-loss record.
I think the answer to that is yes.
Who you got?
I mean, I think it could be one of the freshmen. I think it could be a Winters or a Fagans. I also think Caleb Harris is slept on
a lot. I always forget about him. Like, he's already proven he can do something. Like, Fagans, by the way, is this natural, a football player just all around. You could have played, like, no lie. If tomorrow you called him and said, I need you to play running back this fall, this is not going to happen, he would figure it out. If you needed him to play wide receiver, he would figure it out. Like last year at Thompson, he played corner because they had so many guys, they just need him to corner. He was awesome.
Yeah.
So if Fagans ends up being that guy, I wouldn't be surprised. And by the way, he picked off Deuce on one of those plays.
He did.
At the end of this past weekend in the scrimmage. He's just got a natural knack for finding the football.
He did. Yeah, I think Winters did too. So the freshmen are active for sure. So nonetheless, it's going to be a fun portal window for sure. Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
All you got to do is search for the Portal Podcast, and we are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, and everywhere, all over social media at @LO_the portal on X. Going to have something every day. I just did a very popular podcast on portal quarterbacks because there's a bunch of tampering going on that I talk about.
Yes.
And it is rather touchy, but it is what it is.
Okay. Can't wait to check that out. Yeah, be sure to subscribe over to Brian at the Portal. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuning in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.